You're in DC. Talk to us about, I guess, the first day on the job. Like,
it was torture. We're gonna send a secret service to come get you. I'm heated. Like, I'm just so mad, right? And I had to I'm walking literally to the front door of the White House.
Welcome to this exciting episode. I'm thrilled to introduce you to our special guest, a true hair care icon with 30 years of industry experience. His work has graced the heads of countless celebrities, including Kerry Washington, Queen Latifah, Tamron Hall, and even First Lady Michelle Obama. In addition to being a sought-after hairstylist, he is the co-host of VH1's popular series, To Catch a Beautician, alongside the talented Tamar Braxton. With professional and artistic accomplishments that include serving as an artistic style director for L'Oreal, multiple brand ambassadorships, HSN appearances, and numerous industry awards, he is truly a force to be reckoned with. Without further ado, he is the hottest hairstylist of the United States and author of the best-selling book, Natural and Curly Hair for Dummies. Please help me welcome the one and only Mr. Johnny Wright. Johnny, how you doing?
How you doing, Cornell? You know, I love how you call me the hottest.
Is it the hottest?
It's called the hottest.
The hottest works. The hottest, that worked too, though.
I'll take the hottest too, though. That's hilarious.
The hottest, y'all. The hottest.
The hottest.
The hottest, hottest.
Like POTUS, HOTUS, FLOTUS, I'm hottest.
I got it now. I got it. Johnny, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. Are in your hometown right now?
I am in Chicago. The weather is amazing. I'm looking forward to hitting the streets tonight. Here celebrating a few friends' birthday and also a friend's book release. So I'm just here having a good weekend.
Awesome. Well, as stated, you have graced the heads of many beautiful women, and we're going to get into some of those women and talk about those stories and relationships and how they develop. But this conversation has to start at the beginning. And being that you're the hottest hairstylist of the United States, women across the country are singing your praises. But it wouldn't be possible without a woman named Minnie Brown. Talk to us about Miss Minnie Brown and what she meant to you both personally and professionally.
My beloved grandmother, Minnie Brown, she was the matriarch of our family, and she also started doing hair when she was, I think, 13 years old, and she did hair till she was 91 years old, and she passed at the age of 93. Definitely had an amazing life, amazing career. She raised her family off her career, and I just recall, you know, at a young age, sitting by her feet while she's doing pressing curls on the back porch of our south side of Chicago salon. So my grandmother, you know, she didn't necessarily walk me through step by step, but me sitting there watching her, I learned by vision how to do hair, you know, and I still feel her spirit with me today. I still feel like she's guiding my career. But my grandmother was an amazing hairstylist. She had one of the best combs I've ever seen. The girl could really coif some hair. But she did my mother's hair for all her life, and then she passed on to me. My mom was my first client, and that's how it all began.
Wow. You know, that reminds me, and the beautiful that you said 91. There was a story, and I wish I remembered this lady's name, but I think she was from the South, Mississippi, and she was in her late 90s as well. And I think they did a story on her. She was doing her daughter's hair, who was like in her 70s.
Yeah.
She was still, you remember something like that?
I saw it on the news. Yeah, it was beautiful. She was still standing behind that chair in the salon doing hair. And my grandmother was very much like that. Her clients came to our house, south side of Chicago, to get their hair done. She didn't have to go to them, or she didn't work in the salon anymore around that time, but they came to her, but she used to lay it out. I had a great memory just yesterday of the time I had a client, you know, I was doing these updos, these French rolls, and these buns, and these ponytails, all that stuff. And, you know, I didn't know much at the time about how to really press out hair like my grandmother did. So I told my grandma, and she was like, I'll press it out for you. And I remember her coming downstairs. My father built a salon for me in the basement of our Southside Chicago home. And she came downstairs. She pressed this girl's hair out. It looked like she had just gave her a relaxer. I popped that French roll in her head. That was like some great teamwork between me and my grandmother. It was an amazing moment.
Wow. You talk about your dad who built you a salon, and as a teen, you were still in high school.
Yeah, 14 years old.
How did that, I mean, so what was that conversation like? Did he see like this gift and he was like, I want to cultivate it? Like, what was that conversation like?
Yeah, they saw how much money I was making.
They like, we go get some blueprint.
Think of a salon in the basement. No, you know, but the thing is, you know, what was great about my mom, in particular, she was raised by a hairstylist, so there was no worries about what kind of career I could have being in that profession. And so, I started doing hair at 11 years old, and at the time I was working on the back porch of our home at the time, and we used to have to light this little heater to get warm before we can go back there because it'd be cold during the winter months, and we literally have to light this little gas heater every time. So I guess my father just decided one year to say, hey, let's clean out the basement. I'm going to paint it, get it all cleaned out, and this will become your salon. And that's what it was. It was called Johnny's Basement. I remember my number was 246 hair. 4247. It was 246 hair. At 13, I had my first assistant. Her name was Lanya Ford, which, by the way, worked in cybersecurity. So she just landed a $28 million contract with the government, which is amazing.
Wow.
And then my second assistant was her best friend named Jacqueline Hemphill. And I had both of them starting around 14, 15. And then by the time I was 17, I had a secretary and two assistants. And my secretary by the name of Latrice Mitchell. And these people are still in my life. I still know who they are. We still hang out when we're in the same city. I have a very good track record of all my assistants over the years. I have a chief of police. I have an attorney. I have a real estate mogul. I have all these people that I've helped. And I have Larry Sims, of course, who is an amazing stylist in his own right. And he's doing everybody in Hollywood. Gabrielle Union, all those people, Janet Jackson. Anyway, I just had a great career of just being in this industry. And I could not have asked for a better gift to my life than to be a hairstylist.
Now, you talked about having all those assistants and secretaries. Now, I started off at like 14, 15, but I didn't have all that. I got to admit. What was your marketing strategy at 14, 15? Like, how were you getting these people, one, to come pay you money, and two, to work for you?
My clients were my marketing strategy. Everything that I was doing was word of mouth. There was no Instagram. There was no social media. I created a business card. I did do that. I would pass it out when I would go to malls and stuff. I would give it to girls and things like that. But mostly, my clientele started with my mom, right? She's my first client. And then when she would go to church, there was her friends at church wanted to get their hair done. Her choir members and all that kind of stuff. My brother's girlfriends started getting their hair done. And then their friends started getting their, hair done. And then like people on the block would get their hair done. But what really, really changed my trajectory was when I was in high school, I went to Perseo Julian here in Southside Chicago. And I was a freshman in high school, but I had already been doing hair since I was 11. So I started doing hair in grammar school. So when I got to high school, I was like, how am I going to get these girls' attention? And I befriended this girl by the name of Tequila Farrow. And honestly, the reason why I befriended her because she had these beautiful brothers. I mean, she was beautiful too. She's gorgeous, but her brothers were like fine. And I wanted to be close to her. Just to be close to her brothers. And I finally convinced her. I kept telling her I do hair. And of course, they were like, you don't do hair. You can't do hair. And I was like, no, I really do hair. And I finally convinced her. I said, let me do your hair for free. She came and got her hair done for free. And within that year, I had amassed about 100 clients just from my high school and neighboring high schools as well, too. Keela was a very popular girl in school. Her brothers were beautiful. She was beautiful. So everybody knew who she was. So when she came to school rocking that French roll, I gave her like a rod set or something like that I probably popped in the microwave. That look that I gave her, everybody wanted it, and that's when I was doing my teacher's hair. I tell people all the time, I don't know much about trigonometry, but I gotta be out of the class because I was doing Miss Furcron's finger waves and French rolls every 2 weeks. But I don't know nothing about trigonometry or calculus. I was doing those my teacher's hair, so they hooked me up.
Oh my God. Now I know this is kind of taboo, especially in our culture, but give us a rough estimate of like, what was you bringing home at this age of 15, 16, doing 100 clients? What
I do remember was when I first started doing hair, you know how they say you got to love something so much that you could do it for free? And that's how I was at the beginning. When I first started doing hair, I didn't want to charge. When I was 11 years old, I just wanted to play in hair. My thing, I just want to play in hair. So I would play in hair and do stuff and all that kind of stuff. Then my mom's just like, you got to charge something. You got to charge something. And she was like, I said, well, how much? She said, you decide. What do you want to charge? I said, $8. And she said, okay, it's going to be $8. So she didn't push anything at the time. She was like, as long as you're getting paid for your time, if you want to charge $8, $8. And so I did that for a while. And then by the time I was like 13, I had started to wanted to work in a salon. And there was this salon that opened. I lived in the Roseland area in Chicago. And there's a salon that opened up. It's like a little strip of like shops of like a block away from me on Michigan Avenue. And it was a salon called T's and D's that stood for Tarrant and Donna. And Tarrant and Donna, was dating, and Tarrant was a drug dealer and they opened up a salon. And I wanted to work in there and I could style any of those stylists underneath the table, basically. So I was like, when I was 14, I worked in a salon that summer. That was my first time working in a salon. You have to pay booth rent. And so I remember the booth rent was, I think, $125 a week or something like that. So I thought to myself, I'm going to raise my prices to $25 a person. And that way I know with 5 heads, I got my booth rent. And I had way more than 5 people coming to me a week. So that was my thought process. So I remember going from $8 to $25 a head when I did that summer. And actually now I got to re-answer your question, because what happened was I did that summer at T's and D's, and that's when my father decided to build the salon in the basement. He's like, you ain't gonna be paying these people booth rent. I'm gonna open your salon in the basement. So I did that summer and I came back to the basement, and then my prices started to gradually increase every year. Naturally, I had this intuition of like business savvy, and I would raise my prices and still, I would raise my prices every year. What I would do is a la carte everything. So like your relaxers was a price, and then the cuts was a price, and then, glue-in tracks and sew-in tracks and this type of updo and all that. So every year I would raise a price on something. It might not be everything, but it will be on something. And that way I will keep increasing my revenue.
Wow. First of all, shout out to Daddy for pulling you out of that salon, because they was going to quickly put you on commission. Do you hear me?
They probably wouldn't have, because, they was all doing something.
Okay, I got you.
All right. And then, it wasn't going to do that.
They ain't know nothing about that life.
No. They closed down a couple years later. It's all good.
Wow. So you go and you move in. You remember the conversation you had with yourself, or the moment where you said, okay, this could really be a career for me. Like I could really live off of this and make a real living. Do you remember that time?
No, I don't know if I ever had that. I mean, it was just obvious, because my grandmother did it. My grandmother worked in, these amazing, like, high-end salons in, like, the John Hancock building downtown for years. She also worked for Oprah Studio for a while. So she did a lot of stuff in Chicago, and she had owned her own salons. And, my grandma was the one that we needed some money, we go to her. You know what I mean? So I knew that, I could be successful. And I think what it was, and I was telling this story to a friend actually last night. It's funny I'm talking about this, but my grandmother did hair, my mother's hair for a very long time. And then up until she was like, older, back in the day, there was this thing called the wrap came out when they was, wrapping hair and everything. So my grandma didn't know how to do that. And so this girl by the name of Carolyn, who was my brother's wife's cousin, so my sister-in-law's cousin, she used to do it. Carolyn was this feisty, south side of Chicago, loud and like rambunctious and like one of those sexy and cute. And she used to smoke cigarettes and do relaxers and all type of stuff. You know what I mean? And so she used to do my mom's hair, and I used to sit and watch her do my mom's hair when she started getting wraps and everything. And I just think I was talking to her one day, and I said to her, this is when I was like 10, 10, 11. I wouldn't mind doing hair. And she was like, why don't you do it? And I was like, well, I don't want nobody, at this age. I was like, I don't want everybody to think I'm gay, And she was like, what difference does it make? She said, let them think you're gay. You'll be gay with fat pockets. And I know it's simple as that sounds. That was my very first aha moment in my life. It was the time that I could recall prior to that, in that age range, I used to fear like walking into a crowded room. I used to have so much insecurity, riddled with insecurity, walking into a crowded room, just to fear what people would think about me. But that moment when I was 11, years old, 11, 12 years old, and she said that to me, literally changed my entire life. That's the moment when I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to do it. And not shortly out there, I did my mom's first French roll, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. My. Well, one day you meet a woman by the name of Jacqueline Tarrant, who opened up a whole new world when it comes to this hair business. Talk to us about who she is to you and what this encounter was.
So Jacqueline is my mentor. She is a beast in this industry. She is a trichologist. She has studied this industry for a very long time. She's amazing at what she does. And I met Jackie because at the time, L'Oreal had acquired Soft Sheen Carson, and Soft Sheen Carson was developing into a little more, and they was looking for technicians and people to come in for education. And Jackie at the time was the head of education for them, and she was doing some scouting and looking for people to come on board. We met through this girl named Trifina Johnson, who's a makeup artist. Amazing makeup artist here in Chicago. And at the time, Ms. Trifina used to work a lot of the Chitlin Circuit fashion shows together. And we was working it, and Trifina was also already working with Soft Sheen Carson, and Jackie had already knew her. And she had asked, I guess she had asked Sophia and said, hey, do you know any stylists that would probably want this opportunity to work with a brand? And that's when Sabrina introduced me to Jackie. I went in and I did my demo and my interview, and I got the job, and I started working with her as a technician for Salon Carson. And that was my first brand that I've ever worked with, understanding what those campaign photo shoots are like. I did my first big campaign with them, I had to travel to Paris and like learn, their whole, understanding of how to present and everything. And I traveled around the world with Jackie, and I started doing trade shows, and we did this thing called edutainment on stage, and I would, do classes with her. But what really changed, so we used to do this thing called the Trend Release. And the Trend Release was this event that we put on every year that would showcase our new product. We would do like a collection of looks for them, and we'll get them all, photographs and everything. We'll, put them out there in the ether in the world. And we would do an event around it. And at the event, it would be a blend of consumers and also professionals that would come to the event, because we had a blend of both of those products. We had products that was strictly for professionals. We had a product that was for consumers as well, too. So they would do different things at the event to get the attention of both. Right. And so, we would do like a whole comb out thing, but we would create the looks that the collection that we created right in front of the audience. And that would be for the consumers. And then they will host this color competition. And that was to get professionals to be involved and to get them to using the products and the colors and all that kind of stuff. So this particular Trend Release was here in Chicago, because we did it a couple of places. Like we did it in like Raleigh, we did it in Atlanta and stuff. But this was here in Chicago. And at the time, there's a lot of stuff I'm leaving out here. But at the time, I had this sort of radio segment on the Roland Martin show on WVON Talk Radio here. And it was called The World According to Johnny. Melanie Span, who still owns it to this day, was one of my clients. We and her just had a great relationship. And she was like, I want to put you on the radio. I think people need to hear you. And she gave me this segment called The World According to Johnny. So I was doing this thing every Friday with Roland Martin. So I was kind of like on my way, I guess, to where Jackie saw that I was going. But I didn't see it for myself. I was just having fun doing this little segment on the radio. And so this Trend Release happened. And what happens in the Trend Release, we do the comb outs, and then Jackie typically hosts the color competition. It's probably like 10 professionals, and they on stage, and it's like 500 guests there, and they do like this voting thing and everything. So this particular time, I did the comb out thing, and I'm thinking I'm done, and I'm going to enjoy the color competition and enjoy the rest of the event. And Jackie runs over to me with like cue cards in her hand. She's like, you got to go host the event. And I was like, what? And she's like, you got to go. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then she would not let me like even respond. She's like, listen, go now. Like, and this is my boss, right? So I'm like, what? And she was like, here, just take it. And she's handing me the mic. Mind you, it's 500 people, there. And basically just pushing me on stage,
Wow.
And so I was like, okay. So now I'm like, all right, I'm here. I got to do this. And I just leaned into my humor. And I said something, and immediately the audience laughed. And I was like, oh, okay, that worked, And then I just kept going. So I just introduced the colors, and I was walking them through their process. I literally hosted this thing. And what I can remember at some point in that time, I kind of left myself. I was floating. I can't really describe it. And I always get emotional when I think about it, because it's like, for somebody to see something in you that you didn't see in yourself, it's just like mind blowing, And I did it. And I remember not wanting it to end. And then we closed it, we ended. I thanked everybody for coming out, told them to enjoy the rest of the night or whatever. And we walked off stage, and Jackie was like, I had to do that to you. She said, I knew if I would have prepared you for it, you wouldn't have did it. So I had to push you out there, because I knew that you can do it. And I saw something in you that you probably didn't know that was inside of you. And I was like, whoa, I had to kind of like take a breath. And so from that point on, it started my trajectory of wanting to do more things in Hollywood and have a television presence and people to hear my voice and things like that. Not that I didn't know it was a possibility. I didn't make it a possibility for myself. I just didn't even think about that. But, having that support and having her to be able to see me for who I am was beyond amazing. And honestly, I really attribute a lot of my career and a lot of my success to that moment and to Jackie being so supportive of me.
Shout out to Jackie. Shout out.
Yeah.
So when it comes to working with a brand as a stylist, Did you guys have any kind of insight into the development of the products or the packaging or anything that would, I guess, the consumer would benefit, like the people that we serve would benefit from?
Now, at this stage of my career, to answer that question, I would say yes, right? But then no. And it's just, I think it's just how the company operated. You know, it was a French-owned company and they just did things a certain way. And I used to honestly beg for that. Cornell, it's funny you said it because I was like, I had this instinctive knowledge to know that if we had a more of a marriage with this brand, we don't really need talking points. You get what I'm saying? But how they operated was they would develop the whole line and then we would get a features and benefits sheet about what the product is about. And then the publicist will start creating talking points for us to create. And then Jackie will give us technicals so we can teach it. But the relationship with the product itself is not like, now I demand it. If a person wants me to be an ambassador of something, I have to be there in the consumption of this product. I need to understand why the ingredients were selected, why the technology behind the ingredients was selected. What's the purpose of this, for what texture, who's this woman for, all that kind of stuff. The great thing about working with L'Oreal, I did understand marketing. I learned marketing better because they literally create products based on a personality and an idea of the person who's going to actually purchase it. You know, it's a lot like that scene in Devil Wears Prada where, you know, she did the whole little like, you know, I'm getting used to this stuff. And she explained the whole blue thing to her, how she doesn't realize that everybody in this room is the reason why you picked that color. So I understood that when they created products, because I was a part of that aspect of it, understanding, because we would do the imagery for the product. So this woman works here. She will drive this car. She would shop this place. She shops at this grocery store. And she would wear her hair like this. And this is why she would wear this product. Use this product. So that I did understand that, but the actual development of the product itself, I didn't have it. Now, in this time in my career, I want all of it. So it's an easy, if I go on Good Morning America, if I go on Today Show, I go on Tarrant Hall, it's an easy conversation for me to have, and I'm not just trying to remember talking points.
Yeah, yeah. Nowadays, we have so many brands from far and wide and, you know, overseas and everywhere who are pitching to stylists online, and many stylists are jumping on it just because it's an opportunity. Talk about that process and why people need to be careful, or should they, or how do they use that opportunity where a brand says, you don't really know the product, but they say, hey, we want you to endorse us or pitch us to your following. Talk about that in this day and time.
I mean, listen, all money is not good money, but I also understand why people feel like they need to keep their bottom line secure. For me, I want to have that marriage with the product. But there's ways in bringing me on and just educating me about the product as well, too. You know what I mean? So I can sit down with the research and development person or the chemist behind it and just have them walk me through the whole process. It's still different than being there for the process, right? It's still different. So if a person, you know, a stylist or a makeup artist, whatever, if a brand reaches out, the thing is to be as educated as much as you can about the brand, about why they wanted to create this product, who they're, you know, shopping it to, who they designed it for, the ingredients in there. Just get as educated as you can about it. That way, it's not selling. You're just talking about something you actually are part of and you love.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you started off at 11 in the salon, trained by your grandmother, met Miss Jackie Tarrant. Then you get an opportunity to do your first celebrity stylist, Miss Lisa Raye McCoy. Does she have McCoy? Does she still hold on to McCoy? I don't know. But Miss Lisa Raye.
Yeah, I think she probably does keep on to McCoy because that's her dad.
Yeah. Talk to us about Miss Lisa Raye and that whole encounter and what it felt like. Were you nervous now doing this first celebrity?
No, you know, I never really got nervous with clients. I don't know what that was. I think because my clientele was always a very high profile clientele. You know, I had doctors and lawyers and entrepreneurs and, you know, all these business owners. So, you know, women owned radio stations and all, you know, so I just never really, and I'm not really a fandom type of person. You know, I can admire somebody's body of work and all that kind of stuff. That's not my personality. So I didn't get really nervous. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was some type of anxiety or being anxious, you know, going in for the first time. But no, Lisa Raye is also extremely disarming and you don't feel the need to be nervous about her. She felt like family immediately. We used to take trips together. I mean, there were times that I was with Lisa Raye and I wasn't even doing her hair. And she would have Boogie doing her hair or something like that, just because I became a part of the family and, you know, I would come over to our house with fish fries and things like that. So it was amazing. And then when she became the first lady of Turks and Caicos, that was an amazing time. I would spend months on months in Turks and Caicos and at what they consider the White House there. And they had like a little coach house on the side. And me and Boogie would be in there having a good time. And it was just that was a great time in my life. It just felt so fresh and new. And those are memories I'll never forget.
Mm-hmm. How long did you style Miss Lisa Raye?
For some years. I mean, it was at least 10 years. It was a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were still in Chicago at that time, but then at some point you get this feeling or desire to shift to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Talk to about what fired that up, that passion.
It was pretty much after the moment that happened with Jackie. It was about a couple of years later. I started pretty much right after that happened with Jackie. When she put me on stage, I started to say, like, I need to get to LA. And so what I did was I ended up creating this concept, so to speak, and it was called, so what I used to say when I used to do my segment with Roland Martin, I said, I'm bringing the chair to the air. And that just specifically meant the conversations I'm having in the salon with my clients, these intimate, private conversations, I want to bring them to the air and I want to get people's opinion on it. They don't necessarily know the names of these people. I didn't tell them who they were. But it was just like a thought-provoking conversation that I want to get an opinion on it. And that's how it was. So I thought we could do that in person. So I was like, we can have these live conversations on location and have these expression sessions in salons. So I pitched this idea to L'Oreal that was called Bringing the Chair to the Air. And I attached it to things that we were already doing around the country, these festivals that we would go to and do pop-up salons and things like that. And they loved it. And they gave me $25,000 to produce it. And we filmed it here in Chicago, in New York, and in Atlanta. I created this amazing trailer, and I showed Tarrant Hall. And at the time, Tarrant Hall had just got the job with MSNBC in New York. So she was on her way to New York, leaving here. And I showed it to her. She was like, Johnny, this is really good. She said, but you got to go. You're not going to be able to make this happen in Chicago. She said, you got to go. Literally, in that moment, I decided to move to LA.
Wow.
I had 300 plus clients here in Chicago. About a month and a half, no, I'd say about 2 months, 3 months later, I was in LA.
Wow.
I packed up all my stuff and moved to LA.
Dig into that a little bit, because the statement Tarrant made to you is true, but I'm wondering, have you figured out the why? Because many people say that about Detroit, which is my hometown. You're not going to be able to make that happen here. You got to go to Atlanta. You got to go to Los Angeles. Do you understand why that is now?
Particularly back then, it just wasn't, there's more production going on in Chicago now. It wasn't nothing going on back then. LA was the place to be, or New York, but particularly LA. If you wanted to have a television presence, you would move to LA. This is back in 2007. Well, I moved August 2007, and I just packed up all my stuff, moved to LA. I found a high-profile salon. It was the #1 salon in the country at the time. It was Frederick Fekkai, and they became #1 because Oprah put his products on her favorite things list, and he went up like $12 million in market shares in like 2 weeks. And he was the #1 salon in the country. I went in, landed that gig, and I thought to myself, because initially I was like, I'm not going to go and work in a salon. Maybe I'll just work with celebrities and I'll figure that out. But I was like, it would be nice to have like the security of like a constant check coming in. So I was like, if I work in a high-profile salon, it's like the best of both worlds because celebrities come in there too, right? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. I was working with celebrities there. I had these queens that was traveling in from like all over the country, like all over the world that was coming in. They'll come and like drop thousands of dollars just to get there. It was like crazy. It was like they would be coming in motorcades and stuff, and they'll like have me come to like their hotel room. It was crazy.
Were you the only, as the old folks used to say, were you the only fly in the buttermilk when you moved to that space?
I was the only black guy there. Yeah.
Did you find that as an advantage?
I don't think about stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, and I'm not trying to be coy. I just don't think about stuff like that. That's not where my mind is. It's obvious that I'm the only black guy here, but I didn't think about it as an advantage or not. I think if anything was an advantage, it was my skill set. Not my skin color,
Very good, very good. So you moved to LA, but in this transition, you had a client who actually ended up opening up in a whole nother world of, the levels is just going up and up and up. Talk to us about the encounter with Miss First Lady Michelle Obama that ultimately led you to the White House.
So in 2007, I think that's when they announced that they were running for presidency on Oprah. And I watched that episode and I felt a little connection to her, but that was it. Didn't think anything of it. About 2 weeks after that announcement, I get a call from my agent, Ken Barboza, and he asked if I was available to do this Senator's Wife for, it was Essence Magazine. He was like, it's editorial, it's not paying much, but if you ain't got nothing to do it, no big deal. And it was a Monday. I think I was doing it on a Monday, and I didn't work Mondays back then. So I was like, sure, I could do it, no big deal. Not thinking anything of it, because that's so far-fetched in our minds back then, right? Like the possibility of it being a Black first family. We just thought it was like, I didn't think any of it. I was not a political person. I didn't think any of it. Of course, I knew that the announcement was running. But even back then, I didn't really know what that meant. You know what I mean? I didn't really wasn't think anything of it. So I went and did her, and we hit it off. I did her hair, and it was great. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I get another call from her staff, and they wanted me to come do it for O Magazine. And these are all just inserts. It was not like covers or anything like that back then. Just articles on her in the magazine. And I went and did it for that. But by that time, I had that conversation with Tarrant, and I decided to move to LA. So I walked in, I did her hair, and then when I finished, I was like, just let you know, I'm moving to LA in a couple of weeks, but good luck. I hope you guys win, that type of thing. Still not thinking anything of it. She was like, okay, well, she's like, maybe, we'll see you in LA. We have to come out there for the campaign. I was like, okay, cool. Not thinking anything of it. Go to LA, start living my life, moving to my place, got my place all set up, building my clientele for Kai. I get an email or a call from her chief of staff. It was like, hey, the first lady's coming to town for doing an appearance on Jay Leno. Not the first lady, but Michelle Obama. Can you do it? Yep, I could do it. Then it happened again for Ellen DeGeneres. Yep, I could do it. Then she came for, fundraisers and other things. That was because the campaign was getting more and more intense. So she would be out in California a lot. I would do it for that. And then when things really, really changed, was the DNC, the first DNC. And I remember getting the call, and I was like, I don't know what a DNC is. I thought it was some type of vitamin. But I was like, the DNC, I don't know. I didn't know what it was. Totally ignorant of this whole political world. She was said, first they would like to know if you can be with her in Denver the whole week of DNC. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. So I talked to my boss, my people, my manager at Kai. They were all for it. And I packed up and they flew me out to Denver, and I was with her at that time. But that was the first time that I had did her hair from start to finish. Every time prior to that, I was just keeping her camera ready from whatever else Ronnie, her regular stylist, did on her hair, Ronnie Flowers. Whatever he did, I would just touch it up and make it look good for camera. But the night of her speech, when she was in a turquoise dress and her brother announced her, that was actually the very first time I did her hair from start to finish. And it was noticeable. And I think people realized there was a different stroke of the brush. And the next day, everybody talked about her hair. I remember tuning into The View and Good Morning America. They made a statement about her hair. They talked about the speech, of course, but they made a statement about her hair. And I really think that's when I kind of like solidified my place with her. But I didn't know it at the time. I just went and was just doing my job and had a great time in Denver for this DNC thing and did a little bit of what this political world is all about, And so then I left Denver, came back, and the DNC was a little later on in the campaign that year. So the turnaround to the election was like pretty quick. I think it was like in the next 3 weeks. So the election happened, and I had an election party at my house in LA and had people over and cook dinner and everything. Not thinking, I was just like, he made it this far. Let's just have a good party, I had the party and they won. And then, everybody was crying at the house. We celebrating everything, having a good time. And then one of my friends was like, you think you're going to go? And I was like, no. Like, Ronnie is going to, I'm sure. And I honestly did not even think that she would call me to be with her. I was like, Ronnie's going to be with her. And so about 3 weeks after they won, I get a call from my chief of staff and say, hey, First Lady would like you to come to DC January 13th to do it for the cover of Vogue. So I'm like, what? I'm getting the cover of Vogue? And I'm like, so I'm just stoked about getting the cover of Vogue. And I'm just thinking that she's just throwing me a bone because I worked with her throughout the campaign and you're going to get the cover of Vogue. So I was really happy with that, So I packed all my things up, and the trip was initially set up. I was supposed to arrive on the 12th. The shoot was on the 13th, and I was going to leave the next day, right? But mind you, the inauguration is right around the corner on the 20th. So I said to myself, if I'm going that way, let me just pack my bags and maybe I can stay and go to my first inauguration or something like that. Like, not thinking anything of it, just not thinking anything of it. So I packed my bags for the entire time from the 12th to the 20th, Put a tuxedo in my bag and everything. And so I arrived there. They put me up at the Hay Adams Hotel, which is, the host hotel right across the street from the White House. I stayed there. The shoot was in the Hay Adams. It was on the president's suite level. And I walked in. I gave her a hug and said congratulations and thanked her for having me and let me do this. And the first thing she asked me, she said, Johnny, I want to know, are you open to moving to DC to be my stylist? And I was like, what? Like, because it was not even close to my mind that was a possibility. I wasn't thinking that. I was like, yes. I just said yes. And then I started thinking about like what it would take to like move to DC, because it's like that's across the country and it's a lot of money, and I'm like building clientele in LA, so the money is not flowing like it was in Chicago, this whole thing. And I was like, I gotta figure this out. And I started doing her hair, and I told myself stop and to say something. I said, listen, can you give me a month to get here? And she was like, sure. I was like, great. So I thought to myself, I could figure this out in a month. This was January 13th, right? I moved to DC Valentine's Day, a month and a day later. And I figured it out. I got there, I found an apartment, shipped everything, my car, all that stuff to LA, and I started working. And from there on, we went hard for 8 years straight.
So obviously, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, you call your mom. I'm guessing that's the first person you call mama, right?
I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I call her mom. I don't remember because I was so shocked. And then another thing that happened. So she asked also if I could stay through inauguration. And I was like, it's funny you asked. I packed my bags for it. And I was like, this is perfect. And this is why I'm sure I could tell you've done your research. But, I've always said that I'm a master manifester, and it's power in your tongue. And I said these things and they came into fruition. I said all these things. And that's why I feel like I'm a master manifester, because I am able to now, in hindsight, look back in my life and to see what I spoke into the universe and how it came back to me. Like for instance, Tarrant. When I first saw Tarrant on TV, Tarrant was a reporter. She was doing this thing called The Bottom Line on Fox News in Chicago. She was not even an anchor yet. And I was doing my mom's hair on a Sunday morning to go to church, and her segment was on. And I literally just said out loud to my mom, I'm going to do her hair one day. Just said it. Never met her. I just said I'm going to do her hair one day. 2 weeks later, I met Tarrant, and I've been with her since I was 21 years old. I'm 45 now. That's how long I've been with Tarrant.
My goodness. So you're in DC. Talk to us about, I guess, the first day on the job. Like, it
was torture. So my first day was actually hell. And I hate to even say it, because it's like, I wanted that moment to be such a symbolic moment of my career. And I'm like, walking into the White House for the first time. But I was staying at a friend's. No, what happened was I was staying at this place. Oh, because I ended up telling her, I got this place I could stay. They would put me up. I don't know why I said but I did have it. My friend had a condo. It was free and it was empty. It was nice and everything. So I found some place I could stay. So I was like, I didn't know how to get around. DC is made in a way that it's confusing to get to the White House if you don't know, right? And so, but everything was shut down, and it was freezing cold, frostbite cold, right? And I got on the train that I thought I was supposed to get on. How about the train had to end up hitting someone? And they didn't kill the person. It was so packed on the terminal, that when the train started moving, this old lady was so close, it hit her and just knocked her over. It didn't kill her or anything, but they had to stop the whole train in order to address this. And so then I was like, oh God. So I had to get off the train, not knowing where to go. And I'm asking people for directions, and go this way. And I'm walking, I'm not getting any closer. I have this heavy bag of tools in my hand. I'm no gloves on. I am freezing. So then I finally this is horrible. And then I finally get to 17th and I, but not knowing how close I am to the White House, because I've never been, I don't know where I am. And I see this Bank of America, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go on that thing and just swipe my card so I can just stand and get some warmth, just to get a little warmth on my hand, because I could not move my fingers. And so I'm in there and I'm trying to get warm. So I finally called the usher's office at the White House, because they were giving us that number. And I was like, Claire, I'm lost. I'm running late. I'm supposed to be there in 10 minutes. This is my first time at the White House, to work. And I'm like, she said, where are you? I said, I'm on. She said, well, you're not far. I said, but Claire, I literally cannot walk. I don't know. So she was like, we're going to send a Secret Service to come get you. But it took them a minute. So I'm late. I'm late, like good 10, 15 minutes late at this point. And so they finally come and get me and they just like drop me off at the corner. Not like take me in. They just like drop, because I had to go through this like whole like checkpoint thing. And I'm realizing, I'm like, okay, I finally get through, but I'm heated. Like, I'm just so mad, right? And I had to like, I'm walking like literally to the front door of the White House. And I just told myself, Johnny, stop. Like, you gotta take this in. You cannot walk into this moment with this energy. Like, take it in. So I tried to calm myself down, but I couldn't really, because I was so late that the other hairstylist they had to do their hair. Like, I was that late.
Wow.
And it was my first time with the White House.
Wow.
It was the worst. But I ended up giving myself another first time the next time I went out. Like, I'm going to make this my first time. And that was just fine. I drove in the White House that time. So
right. Oh my gosh. Paint the picture a little bit for us. So I'm assuming there's a vanity suite. It's not like you going into
so in their residence,
kitchen.
they have a salon, like a salon area that also couples as her second assistant's other office, a second office. So it's like a shampoo bowl and a vanity and mirrors. And we just go in there. It's in the residence level of the house.
And while because you were with Miss Obama for 8 years, are you exclusive? No, you're not able to service any other clients? Is it that kind of situation?
No. She was exclusive to me, but I wasn't exclusive to her.
I like that.
And it just happened that way, not like,
like you had a contract.
You can't go to nobody else. She just only used me the whole 8 years, or my assistant when I could not, whenever I had to do something for L'Oreal, if I got sick or something like that. Me or my assistant, but no, I was able to do other people. So basically what I did was I would get her schedule. Her schedule was blocked out for like 3 months at a time. And I would get my schedule. And then once I get my schedule, my assistant, she would just schedule my life around that schedule. So it wasn't a beck and call thing. It was, I knew what my 3 months were like ahead of time.
Okay. And do you begin now? Because, if you start doing mama, grandma, sometimes the daughters now want to come in. Does it kind of turn into that situation?
I mean, in the beginning, I was doing Sasha, Malia, and Ms. Robinson. And then it's just because we start with the first term, we was just on the road a lot. So that ended up being Malia and Sasha getting neglected. So I just started having Yanae focus on the daughters and Ms. Robinson. So, and I just focused on Michelle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just for our listening audience, you're now at the pinnacle of hairstyling. I mean, Beyonce can't even top this. Everybody want to be Beyonce hairstylist, but when you get the first lady of the United States of America, you've arrived. You're doing this for 8 years, but then now you feel the need to move on again. Most people will be like, I'm staying forever. Like, this is a shoe-in. What made you now want to shift again? You shifted from Chicago to LA, then to LA to DC. Now it's like, I'm not settled. I need to move. What was that in you that made you feel that way?
I don't know if it was a feeling of not settled. I wasn't done yet. I mean, I'm not done yet now. It's like, I just was ready to do something else. And I was ready to not go back to, but continue what I set out to do when I moved to LA the first time. So, I was thinking about staying, a little longer with her, but then it's like I had this thought, like I did 8 years. I think that was enough. It's time for somebody else to like shine. So I just passed the torch to Yanae, and I packed up and moved back to LA, which was great. That's when, I was able to get the show with Tamar Braxton, and that was great. We shot 20 episodes of that. That was a fun time. I did stuff with the Griot, and I was hosting red carpet stuff. A lot of stuff that I wanted to do initially, but it was even easier because I had this pedigree behind me now. So I had a little bit of a push. So I started doing all that kind of stuff. And then when Tarrant started the Tarrant Hall show, I got a place here, and I was like bi-coastal for the first 3 years of it. And I'm still bi-coastal. I mean, I still go back and forth. But I got a place here. I had a place downtown LA. I got a place here in New York, not in Chicago. And I continued. And right around the pandemic time is when the book offer came through my agent. And I decided to go ahead and write that book.
Yes. The book, Natural and Curly Hair for Dummies, y'all. Natural and Curly Hair for Dummies. Since we're on the book, and there are two things I absolutely love about this book, but first I want you to talk about who the book is for and why you felt the need to put it into the market.
It's for anyone who has curls, honestly. Of course, the majority of that is Black women and women of color, but it's for anyone who have curls, and this is really a celebration of curls and getting people to care for and appreciate their own natural hair and understanding, there is a process to it, and not speak of it negatively and not, say. I was very, very careful. If you read through the book, I was very careful not to have any negative connotations on the. I would say something is challenging, but I'll never say something is hard. Things like that, because those things are words of power, right? And those things that keep getting embedded into your head, and it just frightens people off, and they just keep slapping wigs on the head. There's nothing wrong with wigs. I think they're fine, but it's just something about that self-care that is important. So that's the reason why I wanted to write the book. And I also wanted to start debunking these, myths about natural hair and how they fit into corporate America and all this kind of stuff. It's just really, I feel that, and I don't know if you read it through, but I feel like it's time for us to heal as a nation and as a people, to get out of these stereotypes and these mindsets of the past and to move forward. So that's why I'm looking forward to partnering with the Crown Act on this with my book tour. The Naturally You book tour is coming to your city real soon. Really excited about that. We're about to start planning that literally this week. And that tour, I really want to really penetrate, America and my culture and, heal the world one strand at a time.
Yes, yeah. I love that. You got some good one-liners. Taking a chair to the air, heal the world one strand. I love it. One thing I absolutely love about this book is chapter 14, where you highlight 10 tips from industry experts. Tell us why it was important. And you highlight people like Kim Kimball, Jackie Tarrant, who we already spoke of. Talk to us about why it was important to highlight other experts.
These are my people. And I also feel like they're amazing at what they do. And there's not only one place you can get information from. I wanted to highlight them because they're just great and they're so talented and they're so creative and they're just really good at what they do. And I wanted to make sure I dedicated a chapter to some of my heroes in the industry as well, too. I love Jackie. I love Kim Kimball, Larry, and Jamal, and Evie, and Ursula. All these people that I was able to put in there. Tim Wallace. I just wanted to make sure that I had a space to celebrate other stylists and to give them some praise as well, too. And that's really what that was all about.
Yes, yes. So people, when it comes to this book, Natural and Curly Hair for Dummies, you're getting experience not only from the 30 years of Mr. Johnny Wright, but all the years of all the individuals that he named. Johnny, tell our listeners where they can get the book. And I understand that you're in need of a certain amount of reviews. Have you met that yet?
I don't know. You have to ask Michelle that. I don't really follow it.
Okay. But well, I want you guys to get the book. He's going to tell you how you can get it. And then when you get it, go give it us a review on the book so that we can make it a #1 bestseller.
Yeah, the book is sold everywhere the books are sold, mainly on Amazon. You get it there as well, too. And definitely go and put in a review. Let me know what you think about the book. If there's always going to be a second rendition of the book. So if you have some things that you want to know more about, let me know. I couldn't put it all in one book, right? But yeah, definitely, the book is sold everywhere books are sold.
Well, Johnny, thank you so much for joining me. Tell our listeners how they can connect with you, follow you on all your platforms.
My Instagram handle is Johnny Wright 220. That's Johnny Wright second to none. The same for my TikTok as well. And I'm Johnny Wright on Facebook. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Johnny Wright 220.
All right.
And you go to JohnnyWright.com, my website.
That's right, JohnnyWright.com. Well, you guys, this has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.